finish this chapter so we can start the next one, where the real how-to information comes along. Poltergeists and levitation. The poltergeist phenomena stretches back thousands of years and remains remarkably consistent. Modern researchers have uncovered the mechanics behind some of the activity. In a large proportion of the cases, there is a presence of an emotionally disturbed teenager. The theory is that repressed emotions and feelings become exteriorized into an independent personality fragment that wreaks havoc on the home. Others feel that poltergeist phenomena is really just uncontrolled mediumship. That's interesting. The first one that he described is also called an egregore, which is a collective thought force, because everything is awareness and consciousness. Even thought forces that leave us have a mind, an intention, an energy, and a form of their own. That's why all energy leaves and returns. It does have form to it. Whether all forms of levitation are attributed to people who have mediumistic talent is a valid question. A medium is someone who reportedly has a strong avenue of communication with the astral world. The difference in various cultures may be due to a matter of interpretation in the ability to control this force. Interestingly, many of the saints suffered from poltergeist attacks, writes Commander X. We find levitation associated with a few poltergeist cases. The nature of levitation suggests that the ability may draw upon the same source of energy as does poltergeist activity. It seems reasonable to suppose that the force emanating from the target subject in a manner science does not fully understand, and capable of moving relatively heavy objects such as furniture, could, if directed towards the ground, effectively lift the subject's body into the air. It may be important to note that at least one mediumistic levitator, Schneider, lost his ability to levitate after going through puberty. Perhaps also important to note that the vast majority of levitating saints and yogis remained chaste, and this may have been a contributing factor to their levitations. So, it's drawing, holding on to that seed, if you know what I mean. Channeling and levitation. Channeling and demonic possession are flip sides of the same coin. Many of the saints displayed both types of behavior. Both involved in a subjugation of the primary personality. Both cause the victims to be able to levitate, read minds, and have supernatural strength and physical knowledge. One is generally emotionally positive, the other negative. How can this be? Where do all these psychic powers come from? The one commonality, again, is disassociation. By disassociating, the personality has opened a psychic doorway to the astral dimensions. It again appears that the secret lies on the astral plane. Multiple personalities and levitation. Virtually every case of MPD, multiple personality disorder, now called dissociative identity disorder, involves extreme abuse which causes the victim to disassociate. As with channeling or demonic possession, the primary personality is subjugated, and a new one takes its place. What many people don't know is that MPD victims are almost without exception extraordinarily psychic. A typical example is the case of Chris Sizemore, who experienced a lifetime of paranormal events, including levitation. Her levitation seems to have been the result of extreme abuse, which caused her to disassociate. Again, it seems clear that disassociation is the answer. Interestingly, several multiple personality disorder sufferers have personalities that define themselves as with polarizing names such as God or the devil. Many also experience typical poltergeist phenomena. Some modern researchers have postulated that in the past, multiple personality disorder was often misdiagnosed as demonic possession. While multiple personality disorders and demonic possessions are clearly separate phenomena, their similarities are undeniable. Telekinesis and levitation. Telekinesis has been demonstrated numerous times under strict laboratory conditions. In the case of Nina Kalagina is a perfect example. Parapsychologists believe that this is a latent ability in all humans. but that some are more proficient than others. The force is unknown, but seems to be connected to mind power. Through the use of will, imagination, and intent, many researchers have postulated that the levitation and telekinesis may involve the same force. And it is. We know from Siddhas that thought force is the only force in existence. Sleep and levitation. Again, some cases of levitation occur when the person is asleep. Harper, Smurrell, Hadsell, Slade, Hartman. Sleep is the most obvious and profound form of disassociation. Presumably, the cases where levitation occurs during sleep, the astral body has again become dominant, and instead of going out of the physical body, lifts it upward, as the astral body's normal mode of traveling is flying. Levitating and lightning. Rochas was the first to note a relationship between electricity and levitation. Recounting several accounts of lightning strikes levitating both people and objects, he concluded that the force involved is likely electrical in nature. Today, several modern accounts have surfaced involving lightning and levitation. Back in the mid-1800s, Professor Steiglinger experimented with electrifying objects and discovered that he was in fact able to reduce weight through this process. This was verified in 1847 by Abbot Nolet, who wrote to the Royal Academy of Sciences that he also obtained similar results. Today, research is more promising. Using superconductors, which generate intense electrical fields, scientists have successfully levitated small living frogs. The electrical fields seem to have no effect on the frogs other than completely canceling the weight of their bodies, making them exactly as light as air. Scientists have also been able to levitate extremely small objects using powerful lasers. Today, magnetic levitation is widely used in society in everything from kitchen appliances to subway trains. Conclusions. Again, main undeniable conclusion is that the obvious connection between disassociation and levitation. Writes Commander X, the one thing that stands out in all levitation cases is that the levitator was in an altered state of consciousness. It seems clear that the ecstatic reaches levitation through meditation of an intense sort. The medium achieves something similar by going into trance. Levitation then seems to depend upon the trance or altered mental state of consciousness. Disassociation has long been known to be an important factor in producing a wide variety of paranormal manifestations. As Reen Sudre wrote, the production of metaphysical phenomena always accompany with the subject a particular state which is called trance. Writes Harvey Wilson, one way to find useful clues as to how human levitation might work is to analyze what the various groups that occasionally produce such reports have in common. Several connections are obvious. A belief in spirits and or a spiritual realm is integral to shamanism, mysticism, spiritualism, spirit possession, and poltergeist activity. The people who belong to these groups often enter trances or altered states of consciousness, either voluntarily or involuntarily, and many of them develop paranormal abilities other than levitation. This introduces the closely related subjects of parapsychology and consciousness research. Writes Fodor, many mediums go into trance and do not rise up into the air. The state of trance, mysterious as it is not an explanation. The rate of breathing undergoes an alteration in trance. Some secret may exist. The rate of breathing and the loss of weight. We do not know what is the force that accomplishes such feats. It should be sufficient to know that such a force exists. Religious ecstasy may also liberate a force. In 1875, Sir William Crookes published a list of 40 levitating saints in the Quarterly Journal of Science, which he was the editor. Originally a skeptic, Crookes lists an uproar among the conservative English society. Crookes, however, was able to draw solid conclusions about the nature of levitation. Regarding these 40 levitators, Crookes writes, as the lives of these are pretty fully recorded, we have means of drawing several generalizations. It is plain that all displayed the qualities of most distinctive of today's spirit mediums, and many were accompanied from childhood by some of the same phenomenon. A feature common to the whole 40 is great asceticism. Only 4 married, and all were in the habit of extreme fasting, macerating their bodies either with hair, shirt, or various irons under their clothes, and many submitting to bloody flagellations. Again, all without exception were ghost-seers, or second-sighted, and all subjected to trances, either with loss of consciousness only, or of motion and flexibility too. Many were levitated only in these unconscious states, others, as Joseph of Cupertino, both in trance and in ordinary state, and, like Mr. Home, most frequently in the latter, while a very few, as Teresa, seem to have been always conscious while in the air. Crookes also noted that many of the levitators on his list were fire handlers, and some had the gift of tongues, and that most were great preachers. He finds it significant that this list contains the founders of 6 major religious orders, showing that the levitators were often profoundly influential. Finally, he noted one of the most obvious and pervasive patterns exhibited among the levitating saints. Writes Crookes, in all cases, the subjects were either praying at the time, or speaking or listening to a particular religious topic that, in each case, is recorded to have generally affected the person either with a trance or levitation. The conclusion is inescapable, whether one is put into an ecstatic trance or is so abused that they shut their awareness off, or meditate to achieve disassociation, or falls down, or the person is sleeping or very ill, the principle is exactly the same. The person is disassociating, or transferring awareness to other aspects of the mind. They have dissolved the borders of the mind that most people have. Many people feel that they exist alone in a limited physical body with their own thoughts. Meditation or disassociation makes one realize that we are connected to all things and beings, that we are in fact all things and beings. It is this realization that one moves into awareness of these aspects of self that the so-called siddhis, or physical powers, become activated. Levitation then seems to be a natural ability that will eventually occur in everybody, that at some point during their spiritual evolution towards enlightenment. It appears to be caused by a dominant astral body, which is actually the superior body in terms of ability, both physical and mental. Obviously, the human body is more than just flesh and blood. It is also an electrical supercharged dynamo of energy with enormous potentials at which we have only begun to guess. Down to the final 10 pages, which have the how to levitate part, going into pranayama, siddhis, Patanjali's methods, etc., etc. Stay tuned.